you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is a really fun topic. We're going to be talking about the gut-brain connection, and you may or may not have heard the term gut-brain axis before, so I'm going to explain what that means. We're going to talk about your microbiome or the gut microbiota, as well as gut healthy eating and other lifestyle strategies that you can use to improve your digestive health. This is a really, really complicated topic. So we're just doing a very cursory overview of just some of the basics on this topic, and I'm going to go really fast. So if you have any questions, just type them in the chat as we go, and I will get to them at the end. So gut-brain axis is basically referring to the concept that our gut health and our brain health are connected, and that our gut and brain communicate with each other. And our digestive health really influences pretty much every other area of our health, including brain health, for a variety of reasons. And I'm going to share a little bit about why that is today. This picture shows just an example of some of the ways that our gut interacts with our brain. So we have what's called the enteric nervous system. Enteric is another word for your intestines, and it's connected to the brain via 200 to 600 million neurons. So you have a whole nervous system in your digestive tract that connects to your brain and communicates. So there's bidirectional communication between the brain and the gut via your nervous system and neurotransmitters, especially serotonin. Your gut actually produces most of the serotonin in your body. Also hormones, metabolic pathways, your immune system. There are so many different ways that your gut interacts with the rest of your body. So it's not just a closed system that digests your food for you. It really does a lot more than that. And there are a lot of ways where we think that that can be connected to your brain health and your long-term risk for Alzheimer's disease, as well as many other health conditions. And we're going to talk some more about that. So let's talk a little bit, though, about the microbiome. So you've probably heard this word before, and we're going to do a couple of definitions in a second, but first, some fun facts. So the intestines are about 23 feet long. So that helps them do their job. They have a lot of very important roles. Our gut contains about 100 trillion microbes, and 7,000 different strains of bacteria have been identified in our gut. So a lot of different microbes. And there are 10 times as many bacterial cells as human cells in a human body. There are 3.3 pounds of microbes in the gut, and bacteria can be up to 60% of the weight of your stool. So these are a big deal. We definitely want to make sure that we're paying attention to all of these microbes, because there are a lot of them, and they can have a big influence on our health. So just some quick definitions: microbiota and microbiome, technically slightly different definitions, but for our purposes, we'll use them interchangeably. And those are the microorganisms that live on or in certain tissues of the body, particularly the large intestine. Everything we're going to talk about today is related to the large intestine. However, you also have a microbiome on your skin and in your mouth and many other places of your body, even your eyes, your nasal cavities, all kinds of things. So we have this symbiotic relationship with these microorganisms all over our body. Probiotics are microorganisms, mostly bacteria, but some other microorganisms that provide a benefit to the host, that's you. So probiotics are a good thing. Prebiotics are substances that feed probiotics. So it's food for the probiotics. Dysbiosis refers to an imbalance of microbes in the gut. So we can have good and bad bacteria. We can have bacteria that are good in small quantities, but not in large quantities. Everything needs to be in balance. And what that balance looks like is something that we're still studying and still trying to understand better. But we are learning a lot. We're getting better and better at understanding what that looks like. And we know that dysbiosis can have a lot of health effects all over our body. So we'll talk a little bit more about what some of the consequences of dysbiosis can be for our overall health and our brain health. The bacteria, the microbes in our gut are important for immune regulation, for protecting against the bad bacteria, vitamin synthesis, fermenting fiber and prebiotics into fuel for our intestinal cells, helping contribute to digestive function, so digesting our food, appetite regulation, blood sugar regulation, maintaining the integrity of our gut lining. We need that lining really strong so we don't have things we don't want leaking into our bloodstream. And so the bacteria in our gut help to keep that lining healthy so that it can do its job. Some potential links to risk factors for Alzheimer's related to imbalances in our gut microbiome include links to obesity, insulin resistance and diabetes, inflammation, poor nutrient absorption, heart disease, depression and anxiety, and changes in memory and cognition. So all of these things, the last one's more of a symptom, but everything else has been associated as a risk factor for Alzheimer's and has also been associated with imbalances in our gut microbiome. Obviously much more complicated. There's a lot of things going on there, but our microbiome does have an influence on our risk for those conditions. And so by trying to keep our gut healthy and our microbiome healthy, we can just contribute to one more piece of the puzzle of our overall health, of our brain health, and keeping that healthy to reduce our risk of Alzheimer's. So what do we actually know about the microbiome and Alzheimer's? We know that gut health is foundational to overall health. We know that the microbiome is linked to many Alzheimer's risk factors, and we know that early and growing research shows possible links to memory, cognition, and Alzheimer's risk. However, we do need a lot more research to really understand on a deeper level exactly how connected the microbiome is to Alzheimer's. So much more research is needed, but we can certainly do a lot of things to support our gut health in the meantime. And thankfully, most of the things that if not all of the things that help us have a healthy gut are also going to be just good for our overall general health. So let's talk about gut healthy eating. Some food foundations for a healthy gut. One, eating 3 to 4 at least cups of non-starchy veggies every day. So non-starchies are most vegetables except for corn, peas, potatoes, winter squash. Most other vegetables are considered non-starchy. So your greens, your onions, your tomatoes, your cucumbers, all of those are non-starchy vegetables. And by getting a variety of those in a variety of colors, we can help to feed our microbiome. So it's not just the fiber that is important, but it's also the polyphenols, the antioxidants, all of those compounds that help give our food its color and do a lot of different things in our bodies. Those feed the bacteria and help to keep them in balance. So the color really does matter. We want to make sure we get a variety of colors and of course a variety of different fiber sources as well. Mushrooms can be particularly good for our gut microbiome, so don't forget to eat mushrooms. There are also a lot of prebiotic foods, which we'll talk about on the next slide, that are great for our microbiome as well. 2 cups of fruit every day. Fruit is great for the microbiome. It has fiber, it's got a lot of polyphenols, and we want to get variety. So think different colors, think rich color, think different families of fruits. So apple family, berries, citrus, melons, tropical fruits. Trying to get a variety of those different fruits throughout the week can help create a diverse microbiome. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but we want the many trillions of bacteria in our body to be in balance, and we also want diversity. We don't want, one strain of bacteria dominating everything else. We want a lot of different types. And so having a varied diet, again, lots of different plant foods, lots of different types of fruits and vegetables, different colors, that helps to make sure that we have that diversity in our microbiome. We also want to eat a handful of nuts and seeds every day. Again, think variety. So chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, almonds, cashews, walnuts, all the different nuts and seeds that you can think of. Try to have those on a rotation in your diet so that you're getting the variety of nutrients and fiber that those provide. From a microbiome standpoint, there is not necessarily a benefit to eating these more than once per day. They are a great, plant-based source of healthy fats and proteins. So those can be really great to have more than once a day. But for the purposes of our microbiome, once a day is kind of the optimal amount that we want there. Extra virgin olive oil is also particularly good for our microbiome. And that's partially because of the polyphenols that are in extra virgin olive oil. That's partially because of the type of fat. So monounsaturated fat is great for our microbiome. Saturated fat, you've heard, if any of you have ever attended my other presentations, you may have heard me talk about some of the controversy surrounding saturated fat. Growing evidence is showing that it probably isn't the best for our gut microbiome. At least not in large quantities. So it's okay to eat saturated fat. We don't have to completely avoid it, but we probably don't want a really high saturated fat diet because it can produce imbalances in our gut microbiome that we do not want. We also can eat a lot of phytochemical rich foods like cocoa, tea, coffee, herbs, spices. So things that have plant foods that have really intense flavor often have more intense concentrations of phytochemicals and polyphenols. So those are all great foods to incorporate. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir, yogurt, those all contain probiotics. Just make sure with the sauerkraut that you're getting it from the refrigerated section of the grocery store and not from a can. The canned sauerkraut has been cooked. They've killed off all the probiotics. So you want the kind that has live active cultures. Prebiotic foods like resistant starch. So resistant starch it's still starch. So, the things that the type of starch we get from potatoes or grains. But when you cook and cool those, it creates what's called resistant starch, and you get a prebiotic benefit. So it's going to have less of an impact on your blood sugar and more of a positive impact on your gut microbiome. And it can help act as a prebiotic to feed those good bacteria. So this has been particularly studied with cooked and cooled rice and cooked and cooled potatoes, as well as green bananas. But other starchy foods can have some resistant starch as well if you cook and cool them, but it's primarily the rice and potatoes that have the most. And yes, you can reheat them after you cook and cool them. So it's best to say, if you want to cook your rice in bulk or something like that, cook a bunch of it the day before you want to eat it, cool it overnight, and then you can reheat it to use in your cooking the next day or in your meal the next day. Onions, garlic, asparagus leeks, artichoke, all examples of prebiotic non-starchy vegetables. So they have extra concentrated sources of that food for our microbiome. But just remember, in general, plant foods, whole food-based plant foods, non-starchy vegetables, fruits, those all are going to contain at least a little bit of prebiotic fuel for our gut. But onions, garlic, asparagus, those are all particularly high. And then the resistant starches. Okay, so fiber, also very important, and fiber is not necessarily the same as prebiotics. So we kind of separate those out a little bit, but we want to eat a lot of high fiber foods like whole grains and legumes. Some of the best ones for our microbiome and for promoting healthy balance of bacteria in our gut are peas, chickpeas, lentils, black beans, mung beans, fava beans, as well as oats, brown rice, quinoa, amaranth, and buckwheat. So those are kind of the stars as far as promoting a healthy microbiome. In general, high fiber whole grains and legumes are all going to be good. Nuts and seeds, all going to be good. So we want plenty of fiber in general. Our fiber goals are 38 grams a day at least for men and 25 grams per day at least for women. Depending on who you ask, some people think it should be upwards of 50 grams per day. Regardless, whatever you're currently eating, you want to increase slowly. So if you're only getting 10 grams of fiber per day, you don't want to increase by more than 5 grams at a time, and you probably want to spread that over a week. So maybe you have, you start at 10, then you have 15 grams a day every day for a week before you go up to then 20 grams a day every day for a week. So by increasing that gradually, you can help minimize digestive upset from increasing your fiber. You also want to make sure that you drink plenty of water. Anytime we increase fiber, we want to increase water. And remember that we want nutrient density along with our fiber. So those polyphenols are very important for feeding our gut microbiome as well and cultivating a healthy balance in our gut microbiome. So when we get our fiber from things like Fiber One cereal, we are missing out on all of those nutrients that help to feed our gut as well. We're also missing out on the variety of different types of fiber that come from whole foods. So there are many different types of fiber. If we get a diversity of types of fiber, that helps cultivate a diverse microbiome. And so again, if we focus on whole foods, getting different colors, getting different types, that cultivates that diversity. If we get our fiber from exclusively, supplements, exclusively, foods that have added fiber, we're not getting variety. We're probably getting one or two types of fiber. And so we're going to miss out on a lot there. That doesn't mean that you can never use those as a, supplemental addition to your diet, but I typically don't recommend getting more than 5 or 10 grams per day of your fiber intake from supplemental sources. We want to try to get most of it from high fiber foods as much as we can. Okay, so a couple of non-food things to think about. Your body is all very interconnected, and stress can have a huge impact. So this is kind of the other direction. So we've been talking about how our gut talks to our brain, but we also want to keep in mind how our brain talks to our gut. And if we are stressed or anxious, we're putting our digestive system in fight or flight mode, and it's not going to prioritize good digestion. Over time, that can lead to a lot of digestive problems. So making sure that we are managing stress well, that we're slowing down to eat, not multitasking while we eat, chewing our food really, really well to applesauce consistency. All of those things can have a pretty big impact on our digestive health. Swallowing large amounts of poorly chewed food can actually cultivate the growth of bacteria that we don't want to be growing in our gut. So just keep in mind, slow down, chew your food really well, work on stress management. If you tend to be stressed throughout the day, say you're working and you have to hurry through your lunch, or for whatever reason you have to hurry through your lunch, taking at least a few moments, even 1 moment, 30 seconds, 60 seconds to do some deep breathing can help you get back into that rest and digest mode so that you're going to more effectively digest your food. So that can help with some, more immediate digestive symptoms if you tend to not feel so great in your tummy after you eat. That deep breathing sometimes can help with that, depending on what the issue is. But it can also just long-term help make sure that you digest your food better. We can also optimize our meal timing. So in general, grazing isn't great for our digestion. There's some, health conditions where you need to have small, frequent meals, lots of snacks. Grazing, if that's you, that's totally fine. But if that's not you, then grazing typically isn't the best for our microbiome and for our digestive health. So we want to have distinct meals. We want to space our eating occasions about 3 to 4 hours apart. And we want to eat breakfast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking and limit nighttime snacking. Again, there are many reasons why those things might not be possible for some people, but if it works well for you, that can help to optimize your digestion. And of course, I'm sure you're going to ask about probiotics, so I just wanted to make sure and mention those here. Unfortunately, they're very complicated, and it really depends. So I don't necessarily recommend that everyone just take a probiotic. For one thing, there are thousands of different products. There are many, many different strains of probiotics, different strength. They do different things in our bodies. They're not all the same. So, when you think, oh, I'm having some tummy trouble, I'm just going to take a probiotic. That's like saying, oh, I'm having some tummy trouble, so I'm going to take a vitamin. There are many different types, just like there are many different types of vitamins, there are many different types of probiotics. So keep that in mind. In general, they're safe for most people. There are some health conditions where they can make things worse. So if you have a lot of tummy trouble, it's always a good idea to check with a GI specialist dietitian. But they're generally safe for most people. You can look for multi-strain products or well-studied products like Align, Floristore, VSL, BioCult. Those are all pretty well studied. There are many, many, many different high quality products out there. You do want to look for third-party testing. You want to make sure that the product has been stored properly. Not all probiotics have to be refrigerated. Some do, some don't. So like I said, they're a little bit complicated. So it does depend, but the strain matters. So just keep that in mind as you're looking for probiotics, if that's something that you're interested in taking. One rule of thumb is not to take them all, not to take any probiotic for a long period of time without changing it up. So there's some research that shows there can actually be detrimental effects when somebody takes the exact same strain of a probiotic for months and years, which many people do that. If that's you, you're not alone. Many people started taking a probiotic, years ago, and they just took the same one forever and ever. So don't do that anymore if you're currently doing that. It's good to change it up. Try different strains, try taking breaks from your probiotic. The most important thing that you can do to cultivate a diverse microbiome is the food that you eat. The fiber, the polyphenols, the prebiotics, all of those things are going to help your digestive system naturally have a more diverse microbiome. So focus on those things, fermented foods. And then if you feel like a probiotic makes you feel better, great, but change it up. When in doubt, please see a GI specialist dietitian. Probiotics and any kind of tummy issue requires specialty training. So it's always good to see a dietitian that specializes in those things. Of course, seeing a doctor, a gastroenterologist too, if you're looking for more than just diet help, or if you need a diagnosis, please see a gastroenterologist. But if you're not sure about the probiotics, dietitian is your best bet to help you with that. Bottom line is we want nutrient-dense, high-fiber, whole foods, like Mediterranean diet. And we do have a Mediterranean diet course that I'm going to share with you about in just a second, so you can learn a little bit more about that. But again, if your digestive symptoms are stopping you from eating healthy foods or enjoying your life, please go see your doctor, go see a gastroenterologist. And anything involving food, I would recommend, again, seeing a dietitian that specializes in digestive health, to make sure that you're getting the best care and know how to optimize your diet for your gut. So gut health is important. Eating a healthy diet, like a Mediterranean style diet, can really optimize your gut health. Managing stress is also a very important piece. And if you have any concerns, please talk to your doctor. And we would love to have you join us for our Mediterranean diet course. It's free. It starts on October 12th. We do not focus on gut health, but we do focus on the nitty-gritty details of all those things that I talked about, increasing your vegetables and getting plenty of fiber and balancing your meals. All of those things we cover in depth. So it's 4 weeks long. It starts in September. We're going to be meeting at 1 p.m. on Mondays via Zoom. So we would love to see you there. If you want to sign up, kubrainhealth.org/leap, and scroll down a little bit. It's kind of towards the bottom of the page, and you can sign up there. And I only have 2 minutes left. Sorry, I tried to go fast. But I will take a look at the questions in the chat. Sorry for talking so fast, everybody. Good examples of non-starchy veggies: broccoli, onions, asparagus, cauliflower, dark leafy greens. Those are all examples. If one has a large hiatal hernia, so hiatal hernia is a structural issue, not a diet issue. So you can do things to minimize your symptoms, but I'm not aware of diet changes that would alter the hiatal hernia. So definitely talk to your doctor about that. The diet is still important, especially after you have surgery, minimizing symptoms, but I'm not aware of a way to modify that structure with your diet.
Does anyone else have any other questions that we want to ask Rachel real quick? All right, well, Rachel, oh, looks like we have one question in here.
How much time should I wait after your meal to start exercising?
Good question.
I think it just depends on what you ate. 30 minutes is fine for many people. Some people need to wait an hour. Unless you're doing like high intensity training, it's not really it doesn't really matter that much. Do eat before you exercise if you want, especially if you're doing strength training. You're going to perform better if you've eaten, but it's more about just your stomach comfort. In 30 minutes to an hour, it's usually pretty good. Metamucil is a fiber supplement that contains psyllium husk. What I don't like about Metamucil is that they add like artificial flavorings and sweeteners or sugar, depending on what type you get. So if I'm going to have somebody take a fiber supplement, I usually look for something a little bit more natural. Could be plain psyllium husk, which is a little yucky, but there are lots of other less yucky fiber supplements that can be a good option. Benefiber, for example, doesn't taste nearly as bad as plain psyllium husk. Probiospore, I do not remember which strains are in Probiospore specifically. Spore-based probiotics in general are thought to survive longer in the gut. So whereas a regular probiotic might only live for 24 to 48 hours after you take it, a spore-based probiotic is going to last much longer. There's lots of really interesting research emerging about spore-based probiotics with treatment for SIBO and IBS and things like that. So it does depend on the strain, but they can be beneficial, and I use them with my patients depending on the circumstances. But again, it it depends. Sorry, it's a little tricky with the probiotic supplements. Can we put the website back up for the diet presentation? I will type it in the chat. It is, oh my gosh, kubrainhealth.org/leap. And you'll have to copy and paste it because it didn't keep the link. Oh, Tina put it in there. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Looks like there is a question I see about intermittent fasting, but I don't know if I missed some other questions.
I see a question about, so you can sign up on the website. The start date is September 12th, but you can sign up now if you want to, or you can wait until closer to the date. It's pretty far in advance at the moment. Yes, I did go very fast. In fasting. Intermittent fasting needs to be very individualized. So it can be beneficial for some circumstances. I don't recommend more than a 12-hour fast for anybody with a thyroid issue, anybody with what I would call burnout. So if you have chronic fatigue of any kind, I would not fast more than 12 hours. If you're a woman and you're premenopausal, so still menstruating, I would not recommend intermittent fasting more than 12 hours. But it can be helpful for some people. There are a lot of benefits to it for weight loss and things like that, but it kind of depends on the circumstances. Yes, and the class starts on the 12th of September.
Oh, thanks for that.
Thanks for posting the link. Okay, any other questions? Sorry, we went a little over time.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions there. Just a correction on the start date for that Mediterranean course. It is starting on September 12th. I forgot to hit the number 2 on